Without further ado, help me to welcome Roger Abraham Lincoln.
Thank you very much, Howard. When I think about Abraham Lincoln, I like to think of the Gettysburg Address. I'm going to give you a little brief history and I'll just think about it.
Good night.
Can everyone hear me? Get closer to it. Can everyone hear me now? Okay. After a 3-day battle against the Union Army at Gettysburg, Robert E. Lee's Confederate Army retreated in July 4th of 1863. The battle was only a major turning point in the favor of the Union Army. It was also the largest and most devastating of this war, with total casualties numbering over 50,000. 4.5 months later, the process of reburying the thousands of bodies had been shallowly interred on the battlefields and was not yet complete. In a sobering setting, Lincoln delivered a brief address to the audience of about 15,000 people, who interrupted him 5 times to applaud. Newspapers across the North also responded very favorably. Lincoln's comments that day, however, comprised only a brief moment in the cemetery's dedication. Prior to Lincoln's 3-minute speech came music, a prayer, and a featured oration. A 2-hour discourse delivered by Edward Everett, retired Massachusetts politician and former president of Harvard University. While Everett's speech dwelled on the details of the battle, Lincoln attempted to give meaning to the events at Gettysburg, indeed to the Civil War itself, by speaking about the ideals for which he believed the nation stood. 77 years ago, our forefathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we're engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We're met on a great battlefield of that war. We've come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and the dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what we did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here. It can never forget that they did what they did here. Unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And with that said, I'm going to give a little brief synopsis of Abraham Lincoln's life. Abraham Lincoln was, of course, our 16th President of the United States. He preserved the Union during the Civil War and brought about the emancipation of the slaves. Abraham Lincoln is regarded as one of the nation's greatest heroes due to both his incredible impact on the nation and his unique appeal. His is a remarkable story of the rise from humble beginnings to achieve the highest office in the land and a sudden and tragic death at the time when the country needed him most. Lincoln's distinctively human and humane personality and historical role as savior to the Union and emancipator of the slaves creates a legacy that endures. His eloquence of democracy and his insistence that the Union was worth saving and embodied the ideals of self-government that all nations strive to achieve. Mr. Lincoln's childhood, he was born in a log cabin in Hardin County, Kentucky, to Thomas Lincoln and Nancy Hawks Lincoln. Thomas was a strong and determined pioneer who found a moderate level of prosperity and was well respected in the community. The couple had 2 children, Abraham's older sister Sarah and the younger brother Thomas, who died in infancy. Due to a land dispute, the Lincolns were forced to move from Kentucky to Perry County, Indiana in 1817, where the family squatted on public land to scrape out a living in a crude shelter, hunting game, and farming in a small plot. Thomas eventually was able to buy the land. Okay. When Lincoln was 9 years old, his mother died of Trimetol, that's milk sickness, at the age of 34. The event was devastating him, and young Abraham grew more alienated from his father and quietly resented the work placed on him at an early age. A few months after Nancy's death, Thomas married Sarah Bush Johnson, a Kentucky widow with 3 children of her own. She was a strong and affectionate woman with whom Abraham quickly bonded. Though both his parents were quite literate, Sarah encouraged Abraham to read. It was while growing into manhood that he received his formal education, an estimated total of 18 months, a few days a week at a time. Reading material was in short supply in the Indiana wilderness. Neighbors recalled how Abraham could walk for miles to borrow a book. He undoubtedly read the family Bible and probably other popular books at the time, such as Robinson Crusoe, Pilgrim's Progress, and Aesop's Fables. Mr. Lincoln's law career: in March of 1830, the family again migrated, this time to Macon County, Illinois, where his father moved the family again to Coles County. 22-year-old Abraham Lincoln struck out on his own, making a living in manual labor. At 6 feet 4 inches tall, Lincoln was raw-boned and lanky, but muscular and physically strong. He spoke with a backwoods twang and walked with a long stride and gait. He was known for his skill in wielding an axe, and early on made a living splitting wood for rail fencing. Young Lincoln eventually migrated to the small community of New Salem, Illinois, where over a period of years he worked as a shopkeeper, postmaster, and eventually a general store owner. It was here that Lincoln, working with the public, acquired social skills and honed storytelling talent that made him quite popular with the locals. When the Black Hawk War broke out in 1832 between the United States and the Native Americans, the volunteers in the area elected Lincoln to be their captain. He saw no combat during this time, save for a good many bloody struggles with the mosquitoes, but was able to make several important political connections. After the Black Hawk War, Abraham began his political career and was elected to the Illinois State Legislature in 1834 as a member of the Whig Party. He supported the Whig politics of the government-sponsored infrastructure and protected tariffs. Political understanding led him to formulate his early views of slavery, not so much as a moral wrong, as an impediment to economic development. It was around this time that he decided to become a lawyer, teaching himself the law by reading William Blackstone's commentaries on the laws of England. After being admitted to the bar in 1837, he moved to Springfield, Illinois, and began to practice in the John T. Stewart law firm. It was soon after this that he purposely met and became romantically involved with Anne Rutledge. Before they had a chance to be engaged, a wave of typhoid fever came over the New Salem, and Anne died at age 22. Her death said to left Lincoln severely depressed. However, several historians disagree on the extent of Lincoln's relationship with Rutledge and the level of sorrow at her death, maybe more the makings of legend. In 1844, Lincoln partnered with William Herndon in the practice of law. Though the two had different jurisprudence styles, they developed a close professional and personal relationship. Lincoln made a good living in the early years as a lawyer. He found that Springfield alone didn't offer enough work. So to supplement his income, he followed the court as it made rounds on the circuit of the various communities in the seats of Illinois. Okay, at this point, we have other people, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. Big hand for Abraham Lincoln, y'all.